getting more sales is fine. We'll get there. But the first step in finding more money in your business is to look within. Once you build a healthy bottom line, then actually more sales actually comes out of it. Once we go into the next phase of doing more marketing, generating more sales, you'll have the capacity not only to handle more sales, but you won't have to work harder because now you've got more systems and processes in place, more people hired to handle the additional volume, the additional workload, right? So now your business is in position to grow beyond your capacity. Thriving in Tandem. It's a podcast for you, the married entrepreneur that wants to win in business and marriage at the same time.
Welcome to Thriving in Tandem.
Hello, and welcome back to Thriving in Tandem.
Hi, family.
You got our new title down yet, honey?
Thriving in Tandem,
All right.
honey.
Today, this episode is going to be about finding more money in your business.
Oh, I'm so excited about you finding more money so I can spend it.
No. That's not how it works, honey. It's not finding more money in our bank account.
Oh.
In the spending fund. It's finding more money in the business. Because as you know, I mean, a lot of business, we're out there making sales, and of course we got to make money, right? And
Correct.
That money goes to pay the bills, pay the expenses, as well as our salary. And hopefully,
yes, you heard that correct. You do need to make a salary.
And hopefully we got some money left over to have a profit. But a lot of times, a lot of businesses are, I don't know if it's majority, but I know big percentages of small business in America do kind of, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but their bottom line is not as healthy as it could be. And so a lot of times the strategy in increasing profitability is to improve sales. But the problem is when you're already working hard, if you're one of those businesses that you're already working hard, that more sales means more work, means more money. Or not just more money, but more time.
Well, and sometimes you can't keep up with more sales if you don't have the labor to do it.
Right, which means when you don't have the margin to hire more help, that means you're doing the work, which means it's going to eat up more time. And more time in the business means less time at home with your spouse and family. And so the question is, how much more sales can you handle? How much more work can you handle? So in this episode, we're going to show you how you can find more money in your business without increasing sales. So it's not to say that you don't try to gain more sales, but the first step in increasing the bottom line is to find it from within. And the majority of the time, if not, well, so far all the time with all of our clients, and some of them are already doing healthy. Their net profit margin is already over 15%, sometimes 20%, but we're always able to find a little bit more money. And that additional income, the additional profit is helpful because then it goes into investing into the things that can make your business more efficient and even more profitable.
And
right?
You'd be surprised sometimes the small little changes that really add up to quite a bit.
Yeah. And so we're not talking about accounting fraud, or it's not magic. It's just a really practical process we run all of our clients through, and even ourselves. We've gone through it ourselves, that will help you find more money for the bottom line. And it's not fun.
It's not romantic.
And so that's why this often gets overlooked, because this goes to kind of what pisses me off, right? When we record the introduction for the new podcast here, Thriving in Tandem, we talked a little bit about what pisses us off, what breaks our heart, and the what pisses me off category is all these people pitching these, 100 extra business this, 10 extra business that, increase your bottom line in 30 days or something like that. All this stuff, selling you big returns in short period of time, that pisses me off because most of the time it doesn't work.
Yeah, they make it look so simple and so easy. You just have to invest thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
In one-step process.
Now, even though the process or the principles that they teach are probably sound, because I've looked through some of these before, the principles themselves are good. It's just that the expectation put on the general public, upon the consumer, upon the business owner, the entrepreneur they're trying to get to sign up for this is like you're going to get this big return really quick. And the reality is it doesn't happen quick. It's not a quick fix, but we'll show you the process that we go through is just very highly practical, and it's really finding money that's already there, and that's all it is. So let's go through this process.
And you're not having to work any harder than you were before.
Right, because getting more sales is fine. We'll get there, but the first step in finding more money in your business is to look within. And once you build a healthy bottom line, then actually more sales actually comes out of it, as we'll walk through it. But that's just the outcome of going through the work of finding more money in the business, finding ways to increase the bottom line. And then once we go into the next phase of doing more marketing, generating more sales, you'll have the capacity not only to handle more sales, but you won't have to work harder because now you've got more systems and processes in place, more people hired to handle the additional volume, the additional workload, right? So now your business is in position to grow beyond your capacity.
Yeah, you don't have things follow through the cracks.
Yeah,
because you can't keep up with it. You're so overworked that you're trying to do it all, and there's no way you can do a great job at everything.
Yeah, because the premise around what we do, Thriving in Tandem, is about how do husband and wife work well together? How do husband and wife just do life together very well? And the business, how do we manage? How do we create a growing business that's not taking up more of my time, right? In fact, gaining more freedom back, because that's what you want when you're starting this business, is to gain freedom. And the first step is going to how do we scale the business? And last episode, we talked about the time, right? How to be more efficient and more productive with the time you have. Now we're going to talk about the money part of building a business. How do we be more effective and more productive with the money? Which means how do we, increase our bottom line so we can invest back in the business to make it run better, smoothly, more efficiently, more productively, more profitably. I'm not sure if I use those words correctly. I mean, the
profitable,
productively. I don't think that's a word. I'm not sure if that's an actual word. Anyways, somebody can correct me. But you know what I'm getting at is, with the better bottom line, you'll have more money to invest in the business and make it a better business. So the average business owner, the average business is making about a 7% net profit margin, which means you take your overall sales, and after you paid all the bills plus your own salary, you have about 7% left over as profit. That's okay. It's not great. 10 to 15% net profit margin is more comfortable, better. 15% is definitely where you want to be. 20% is great, right? And so think about that. If you look at your own net profit margin and think about if you're not at 10% yet or 15% yet, calculate what 10, 15% would be, and what would that do for your business? And what could you do with that money?
Yeah, I would think just brainstorm about that and come up with a vision of all the different things, all the opportunities to grow the business if you had a little bit more money to invest back into it.
So think about that. It's not about just increasing profits just to increase profits, but it's for a purpose, right? It's one to grow and build a better business, which means
that you're reinvesting back into it.
Which means it frees up more time. You're able to pay yourself more, pay your employees more, right? Doing all the things you want to do. You'll have more margin to do that. I mean, that's where the margin goes, right? To do those things that you want to do. So that's, from a financial standpoint, that's what we're trying to get at. We're trying to get to that 15% net profit margin, if not more. And how are we going to do that? That's the big question. So again, we're not going after more sales right now. We're trying to figure out how to find more margin. The difference between your sales price and all your expenses, your sales and minus expenses will be your profit margin. How do we get more of that? So we got to start, if you pull out your profit and loss statement, and you can pause here if you want.
Yeah, because this is your favorite part. Yeah, one of your favorite parts is the marketing and the financials.
And it's not been my favorite part. It's become one of my favorite parts, because I just saw how
big of an impact it made when you found money.
Yeah, it actually helped me, or helped us, create a better business and marketing strategy by going through this process. It really, going through the financial statements and really understanding what we're looking at and how to improve the bottom line made us better business people, and helped us create better business strategy. So this isn't fun, but just go ahead and pull out your profit and loss statement. I don't care if it's up to date or not. It doesn't matter. But just go through this exercise. You can pause here if you want. All right. Now, as you come back, all right, look at your profit and loss statement, and we're going to go from top to bottom. And if you look at all your sources of income, the different products and services that you sell, where can we increase prices? That's where you start. Start from the top, right? Is the sales price, because that's the most money you're going to have in the bank account is at the point of transaction. After that, everything's going to get deducted. So where do you have room to increase your price? And before you say nowhere, right? If we were there with you, we would challenge you on that, because there's always room to increase the price. How do I know that? Or how do we know that? Is because it's human nature for most people, because we don't want to be looked at as price gouging, greedy business owners, because the media, when they talk about business owners, entrepreneurs, they make it sound like you're rich and you have all kinds of freedom, right? I mean, think about it. Your friends and family.
Gouging everybody. We just have all this money and don't know what to do with it.
Think about your friends and family that don't have business owners. They know you have a business. What do they think? Right?
You're rich.
You're rich. You got a lot of money and you got a lot of free time. and so what happens is, and we hear that a lot. We hear what the media says about, greedy capitalists, business owners. And so we err on the side of caution, and we tend to price ourselves a little bit lower than what the true value of our product and service is worth. Now, we have a whole exercise that I go through to really figure out what the value is and assign a price value to that. But just think about that, right? Just practically, just common sense. Let's be real here, right? You know that your product and service is worth more than what you're charging. Yes or no?
So yes, that's correct, honey.
Well, I wasn't asking you, but
no, but I had another question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you guys have raised your prices? Seriously.
Yeah, and hopefully,
because with inflation, oh my gosh, every time I go to the market, it's like daily the prices are going up.
Here's the running joke in our house, because every time
here we go, honey. Here we go.
Every time we come back to the market or we're at the market, Kaylee's like, "Oh my gosh, prices are so high." You go to a restaurant, prices are so high. Oh my God, prices have gone up. And I'm like, "Honey, you got to get past this."
You're like, where have you been for all the last couple of years?
Last year, right? Well, almost 2 years ago now, right? 2022. That was news, right? Inflation was at an all-time high, 8%.
It just keeps going. It seems like it's never going to stop.
Because inflation happens every year.
I know, but it just seems like every time you go to the market, I'm sure I'm not the only ones, ladies. Prices have gone up.
Well, yeah, because not everybody raises their prices all at once, right? And so there's the early adopters, people that are like, "Oh man, we're hurting. We're paying more in expenses. So we got to raise our prices." And there's the ones that kind of hold out, right? And I'm sure you may be one of those where you've held out. Your expenses are going up, but you've held out. You don't want to pass it on to your consumer because you feel bad. You're afraid you're going to lose customers. Yet guess what? You're paying higher prices on whatever you're buying. I
hate to tell you, your prices have gone up.
And so, yeah, especially over the last 2 years, you definitely better raise your prices. Otherwise, you've lost money. Because now here's the interesting thing about it, and it's the way the feds calculate inflation, it does not take into account fuel prices and food. Do you realize that? I looked this, I researched this. I was like, that is the craziest thing. Because think about it. What are the two things we all consume? Even if you don't have a car, you're taking public transportation, unless you're taking an electric, well, even that, because a lot of those fuel prices, energy prices, right, are part, it's not just fuel prices that are calculated into inflation, it's energy prices. So it's electric, gas, whatever. So we're all consuming energy, right? And so our home, whether you're all electric, gas, whatever, all that to say is we're all paying for energy and food. and it's not calculated into inflation, because I remember when hearing the 8% inflation, and I'm looking at what we're paying and like go in the market. Yeah, the market definitely, there's more than 8% price increase in the market. And of course, fuel prices, forget about it, right? That was definitely more than 8%. If you're here in California, you're shaking your head, go, it's gone up, I don't know, 30, 40% easy, right? And so, yet that's not calculated into inflation as far as the Fed's concerned. So, when you talk about 8% inflation, or the average is about 2.7% average inflation rate, just know it doesn't take into account those two things. All that to say, though, going back to your point earlier, is that if you haven't raised prices year over year, you're falling behind.
Well, and we know entrepreneurs that are like, they're all proud. We haven't raised our prices in 10 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a long time to go without an increase.
Yeah.
Especially with everything as expensive it is. Because as you said earlier, your prices are all going up for all the stuff you're buying that you're going to end up selling. So,
yeah. So really take that to heart, right? I mean, look at that. You're going to have to raise your prices, most likely.
And people expect it.
Exactly. I told our clients last year, because some of them were afraid to raise their prices. I said, if there's ever a good time to raise prices, now, because everybody's expecting it, everybody's facing it. And so, but the longer you wait, the more that your consumers are going to have sticker shock later, like my wife, Kaylee. As these businesses are finally raising prices, here's my wife going, oh my gosh, prices are going up, right? So last year was the best time to raise prices. So, but all that to say is you still got to do it year over year.
Because we want you to be around, you guys, in business. And we've seen so many people go out of business because they weren't charging the right amount. They didn't have enough profit margin.
Yeah. And so raising prices is one way. The other way is, what about if you can bundle a product or service on the same transaction? So like retailers or restaurants, like the value meal exercise, the value meal principle. Basically, it's, offering a so-and-so costs, offering a supposed discount when you buy a package, the value meal, as opposed to buying everything individually, right? And so for an extra 50 cents, you get to throw in a Coke with the meal or fries. And, you're actually increasing your profit margin, even though you're quote unquote discounting, because in one transaction or one customer, you're actually increasing sales, and you're actually lowering some of your costs because, just take the cashier, for example, right? The cashier is already serving you. So, but if you can bundle it in two or three more items, right, on the same transaction, it's actually saving on labor costs just in that transaction.
Because it's not taking him or her any more time to ring that up and put the bag of fries.
Yeah, it's marginally hamburger. Marginally, it's not that big an incremental increase in costs. In fact, they're saving money as a business. And so, bundling, and in services, you can do the same thing. If you're a service provider, just like us, I mean, sometimes we'll bundle some different services with our packages. So there's a way of, how do you increase? All to say is, there's increasing prices one way on the income level, right, of increasing. But then how about bundling some things, right? So one transaction, the same transaction, which means you're going to actually increase sales, right? So really your sales are increasing off of per transaction. And so that's another way. So as you're looking at your profit and loss statement, right? First thing, when you look at income, where can I raise prices? How can I increase the number of the sales per transaction? What are some ways we can do that? So those are some basic ways. Now, as we're going down the profit and loss statement, we get into cost of goods. And so, looking for, if you're a restaurant or any business where you have a supplier, right? Like the restaurant, gas station, buying, well, you probably don't have any choice on where you buy the gas, but no, I'm blanking. So there's restaurants and there's even retailers, right? There's different suppliers. You can purchase certain goods. Are there lower cost alternatives? Basically, all that. That was a long-winded way of stumbling through. can you find some lower cost alternatives of suppliers? It doesn't negatively impact your quality, but can you find alternatives?
So would this be like when we were in Utah skiing and they had a little coffee shop, and then in the back they had, oh my gosh, the best, they're high end, they're really expensive, but they were great cookies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they shared on the rent.
Yeah, that's a different
That's a different
issue.
category.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a great idea, so they didn't have to pay for the full rent. They were able to split it.
Yeah. But you talk about the coffee, or the person selling the coffee or the chocolate cookies and all that, are there certain supplies like the cups and the napkins and things that part of cost of goods, but there potentially could lower cost alternatives to some of those supplies, right? Doesn't impact quality, but you can find some. So because for every transaction, like the cup, right, for every coffee that you sell, obviously that cost is a cost of goods. If you can shave off a penny or 5 cents per cup per transaction, basically, right, and over time, with volume, I mean that adds up.
Well, I know like some coffee places, if you bring in your own mug,
yeah,
they have cost savings there
to the customer. Yeah. And then, but terms of payments. Sometimes, depending on your supplier or whatever, they have 30 days, 60 days. So if you pay in 30 days or immediate, right, there's a cost savings to that. So looking at ways to get discounts based on payment terms. Are there areas to increase your efficiency in labor? To lower your cost? I mean, and one way is we kind of talked about that with the bundling. That's kind of one way to increase efficiency in labor, is increase the number of transactions or increasing the sales per transaction. So not increasing labor costs, but you're increasing sales at the same time, right? Now, so that's cost of goods. And then now let's go down to the fixed expenses or the operating expenses. When we look at the line items of your operating expenses, ask the question, what's the return on investment on all these line items? That subscription, is it serving you well? How is that helping you? Are you saving time? Are you increasing your efficiency? So which means you're getting better productivity with the time you're put in. Can you cut down on some of your travel costs? Again, are there lower cost providers like insurance companies, cell phone providers sometimes, or phone provider, even shaving off a fraction of percentage on your credit card transaction fees.
Well, and I want to say, look over your subscriptions, because sometimes we are subscribing or at least paying for stuff we don't even know we're paying for or not even using. You checked one time and you're like, oh my gosh, I have all these things. I don't know if you signed up for them, but
you do.
You canceled. Well, no, sometimes they just start sending them. I know somebody are paying for like Netflix or something 2 times, you know what I mean, in a month. And so you have to look over that stuff and make sure that that's something you want to keep and that you're using.
Yeah. Because, especially with some of these technology subscriptions, it's so easy. Like say, there's a free trial, right? And if you put down a credit card, that means, with 7 days or 30 days, whatever that free trial ends, they're going to automatically start charging you. And what they're banking on too is you forget.
Right. And then they're going to just keep charging you monthly forever.
That's why I think they give you a 30-day trial period, is because it's long enough that you actually forget that you do, because you're probably not using it, right? And then next thing you know, you start getting charged. And so,
well, how many people look over their credit card bills?
Yeah. And so you really have to look over, not only is this subscription serving me well, but am I even using it? Right. And am I using it to its full advantage? So there's so many questions. I mean, just question everything as you're going down. And it's probably good to do this at least on a quarterly basis, to really define like a magnifying glass on your expenses, to really question, what's going on, because it's so easy to lose a few dollars here and there. And then over time and volume, especially cost of goods, because it's all tied to volume, it can add up to quite a bit. And so if you just think about this, even if we're not there with you right now, but as you just looked over your profit and loss statement, right, just even at a high level right now, you haven't really gone in depth into anything, but just there's probably a few things, at least I'm sure there's at least one thing besides price. I'm sure there's probably opportunity for bundling. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 cost expense items that you're questioning, right? That, hey, maybe I can get a better rate, or maybe there's a way to improve the efficiency in different areas that would reduce some of the costs, right? So there's different, if just even looking at this, right, just kind of at a high level, I'm sure you probably found something, right? And it's worth after this episode is to really start digging a little bit deeper. And as you dig deeper, what you'll find is, shaving, increasing your price here and there, 2%, 5%, whatever, especially when you're increasing price, that price increase, everything goes to the bottom line. Right? Because there's no additional expenses that you're carrying on. You're just actually increasing the price. So that 5%. So if you look at your total sales, if you average a 5% average of 5% price increase across the board, how much is that? And that all goes to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Right? So if it's $100 and you raise it 5%, that's only $5.
Yeah, it's $105. It's $5, and then multiply that times the volume. Then that'll give you what's going to hit the bottom line. The last piece then is to, even looking at how you can increase performance, increasing your sales close rates, your pay-per-click ad spend, your speed of service, less mistakes, having less returns, increase the open rates in your emails, all those performance issues that you're measuring or should be measuring. When you increase those performance measures, you're actually increasing sales and revenue, right? Or increasing profits. I mean, just like less returns. So less returns means, well, more sales and more profit, because, think about the expense of the sale itself, but then when you have to do the return.
Yeah, that gets really costly.
Right. So that's hitting your bottom line. And so, when you're minimizing those mistakes and lessening those returns, now your sales and your bottom line is actually improving.
Yeah, because if a lot of people are returning, maybe you need to start questioning why that is. Be curious.
Yeah, maybe it's
what
something
can we
in the
do
product.
to improve it.
Exactly. And increasing like open rates. If you do email marketing like we do, that just increasing the open rates by 20% means you automatically increase your sales by 20%. Yeah, whatever sales you're getting already through emails, if you don't change anything else, but just more people opening it, that automatic demands you're going to create more sales, right? If your close rate or your sales rate is the same, when people open it and you have, like, say, a 20% conversion to sales, for example, even if that doesn't go up, but you increase the percentage of people that open the email, that means you're going to get more sales. So that's where we look at increasing performance. That's why we got to look at how do we improve performance, because that alone, like, we're not putting in more time, right? Nothing we said is about putting more time into work or spending more money. We're just looking at how do we increase the performance of what we're already doing and the money that we're already spending.
And keeping track of the numbers.
Yeah. And just so you know, as we wrap up here, is that, on a personal level, I remember doing this exercise just for ourselves where we tracked every penny that we spent for a month, every penny. And, looking where all the money was going to, I mean, we got surprised, and then we made some adjustments, right? And that was painful. It was tedious, but it was so worth doing. And so doing something similar, so what we're talking about right here is kind of doing something similar for business, because hopefully you are tracking, you have a good bookkeeping system, that you are keeping track of every penny that you're spending in the business. Now it's about going through with a fine-tooth comb and looking at where all the money is going to, and where can we save some money here and there, right? And next thing you know, you're going to have a nice pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Well, and it's like last week, we were like, where can you save on time, be more efficient? And this week, we're talking about where can you find money to save? So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. And so that's a little exercise.
And you guys might be surprised when you start looking at these numbers where you're spending your money. You're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's a little exercise in finding more money in your business. I really, if you did not already do this, pull up your last 12 months, your profit and loss statement. If you don't have a bookkeeping system, I encourage you to get one. This year, this is your year. In fact, tomorrow, look, whether it's QuickBooks or we use Wave, there's a few other ones that are out there, but find something that will track your profit and loss so you can do this exercise, because when you don't, you're just going blind.
Well, and you need to stay on top of it as well.
Yeah.
Because things change so much, as we were saying, with the inflation changing almost daily. You need to know where your numbers are.
Yeah. And because like I said, if you're not tracking these things, you're going blind, and you're going to fall in that same trap that a lot of business owners go through, is just more sales. The more sales we get, then the bottom line is going to take care of itself. But what we found is that doesn't necessarily happen. So I know this isn't necessarily a fun exercise, but it's going to provide, should we say guarantee? I almost guarantee. I mean, I would be surprised. Let me just put it this way. I would be surprised if you don't find areas to improve your bottom line going through this exercise. And if you haven't, contact us.
Yes.
And I'll personally get on a Zoom call and go through it with you. Right. And so all you got to do is go to
email us.
Yeah, just go to marriedentrepreneur.co. Right on our website, you can schedule a complimentary Zoom call with us. So anyways, I was not going to plug that. But anyways, all to say is I'm so confident that you'll find money doing this, that I'm willing to hop on a call with you if you can. Right. So hope this was helpful, honey. What about you? I know this isn't, this is kind of fun for you too.
This is fun. This is like one of your favorites, but no, this is fun because I love finding money.
Yeah.
You know me.
And
who doesn't?
Next week, we're going to talk about legacy, because speaking of money, next week, we're going to talk about legacy, because what you're doing, this business that you're creating and the time that you're spending with your family, your spouse, your family, it's all part of building legacy, right? We want your business to be successful.
We want it to outlive you.
And we also want to make sure you're spending time with your family so you can really build a healthy legacy, not just financially, but really holistically. So thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with another entrepreneur that needs to hear this, right? I think we all do. We can all find areas to increase the bottom line. But go ahead and we would love a review as well. So go ahead and do that. Share this episode. And until next week, God bless. Thank you for listening to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. Please visit our website, marriedentrepreneur.co, for a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business succeed.
And feel free to leave us a review and share this episode with another married entrepreneur. That would mean so much to us.
See you next week.